Hi, we're just getting over a really hot 2-day period, and I thought I would just put out a quick video on how my annuals reseed in wood chips. I am looking forward to this hot weather coming to an end because after moving from Southern California to Washington, I have acclimated to the 50s and 60s, in particular doing hard physical labor in such a temperature, and the 80s, I just can't deal with it anymore. So anyway, to the topic at hand, which is reseeding annuals. First off, I will do a video soon about why my Zone 1 garden beds are just covered in wood chips. And a couple of years ago, these wood chips were to the top of each of, I guess the wall, one level, I guess, up from the bed, and it's just sunk over time due to just decomposition, evaporation, that kind of stuff that wood chips do when you just let them sit. And that is why I am particularly aware of all the things that are still reseeding in this area, because this is a prime example of something that happens when you build your soil and you get lots of yummy wormies crawling around in your soil, both in the wood chips and in the soil underneath. And that is, you get moles that come around and they eat your wormies, and that's actually a good sign. I mean, the alternative of like just keeping rock hard solid that can't be tunneled through is not really a good option if you want to be a farmer. So you just have to have a positive outlook on it, which is these moles are aerating my soil. They're enabling the rain to get beneath the soil surface. So when the moles come up, they introduce soil to the surface. And whatever seeds that you have in your soil seed bank are going to germinate in that molehill. And in my kind of farming / gardening, whatever you call it, food foresting, my number one, I think priority, or amongst my number one priorities, is a helicopter flyover, is making sure the seeds that I have in the ground to be stirred up are the plants that I want, or belong to plants that I want to eat, ideally, or have some other function in the food forest. And so last year, so this molehill has been here for a while, and last year this brassica volunteered in it. So this is the second year brassica, and I let all my brassicas do this. In fact, I have a hard time eating them because I'm letting them do this. And this is why they come up, is because I let them go to seed. And I essentially have mutant brassicas, because they all cross with each other, that come up whenever the soil situation is makes it viable for them to come up. And this year I let this plant go to seed like crazy, and so this is also coming up even more. And this is a wild lettuce. So whereas I introduced the brassicas, I did not introduce this. This is just a wild plant. And since we're at it, let's go ahead and ID it. You can see all the pricklies on the spine of the leaf. And that's one sign of what it is. And then also when you make an injury to it, you can see the latex, which is like a milky sap. And it is totally edible, just like any other lettuce. And when I bite into it, I get the sensation that I'm on a mountain. No, it tastes like lettuce, and then the bitter hits you. So it is quite bitter. It's not as bitter as some of the other wild greens that exist in the world. But I could eat this raw. It's not that bad if you don't mind bitter, and you kind of teach yourself to like bitter. It's good for digestion and all that. But this plant's also medicinal. You can look that up if you want. Yeah, but it's also good. If it's too bitter for you, you can you can blend it with a berry or another fruit to add some sweetness to it. But yeah, but I like these kinds of plants, so they like to reseed for me. And for me, my experimentation is largely, what can I throw out there and have it, I'll let go to seed and it's going to reseed for me. And just while I'm here, since I'm looking at this guy, this is a mallow. This is a common mallow that I actually took from a farm, because mallow and lamb's quarters are just wild edible weeds that show up a lot on farms, and farmers hate it. And some, I think the most appreciative farmers, recognize its value and will eat it sometimes, and that's the farm that I got it from, but they still pluck it out whenever they can. I would love to have this be, a wild weed, it's not really a weed, a wild edible that comes up like a weed in my backyard, kind of like this lettuce does. So I took it, I planted him here, but he's still the guy that I planted. I don't know if if they only come up in like high fertilized farmland, or if I can get them to come up in wood chips. I have no idea, but I'm glad that he overwintered, because I planted him last year. And then sometimes I'll do things like this where I'll just, part of my experimentation is I'll put annuals, or I'll put like plants that I'm coddling into these molehills and see if they can survive. I know there's like a air pocket down there, so it's probably not really good for a monocot to be sitting in here. And see, this one's not doing good. And I also don't go around irrigating. I just don't have time and I have a lot of space. So these things, they might work maybe if I watered them, but I kind of don't. So they dry out, and after like 2 days in the 80s, I'm probably lucky that they even look like this. But yeah, so I'm yapping, but yeah, that's one way your annuals will reseed for you, even if you have wood chips everywhere. The second way they will reseed is they will come up directly through your wood chips. And as you see, there's no soil exposure there. I don't know how many inches this is. This has been here for a while. And when wood chips sit on your ground for a while, they kind of go through this intermediary phase where you're like, is that soil or is that wood chips? So there's kind of this, I guess if you keep going down to the technically what is soil, that could still be 4 inches. But I guess the question that matters here is what can, I don't want this foxglove here, is what can reseed in this mucky kind of intermediary stage, right? I guess that's all that matters. But anyway, so brassicas can, like there is looks like, radish here, which is also a brassica, and you can see borage in here, the wild lettuce is in here. And then I did a video, well, that's on potatoes, so my potatoes keep coming up in here. I actually planted these, so those don't count. This looks like another volunteer radish, and they don't look very nice or very happy because I haven't put my fish gook on it yet. So I don't have a lot of time to do all the things that I want to do. But from past experience, when I dump my fish JLF, Jadam liquid fertilizer, on wood chips like this and young brassicas like this, they are very healthy and robust. So they need, for them to be in an optimal state, you could do that, but I haven't done that, and that's why they look like this. But when you think about the area, you really just need one to make it strong, right? You think about, I guess you can think about square foot gardening, how many brassicas would you fit in there? And when they're too close together, I guess they don't, they might not get huge. But let me show you what's happened in the past. So here are 6 mutant brassicas all growing up in the same space, and they got pretty big. All right, here's all of them that let go to seed. And you can tell that they're mutants because of you know, like this one, it looks like it's got some like purple broccoli parentage, maybe some kale, and like its brother over here looks like a true dinosaur kale, and this one looks like it's like half dinosaur kale and half white Russian or something like that. There's also like collard genetics in here. There's one down there, so there could be some collards in there. This one looks more like a red Russian. Right, so I didn't plant any of these. These were just last year's volunteers going to seed and adding brassica seeds to the area. And when the wood chips settle enough, they can just, as you can see, they can just grow right through it. And maybe all you have to do is just dump your free fish waste / nitrogen source onto it. And so the third way that they will come up in your wood chips are in crevices. So here, this looks like actually a bunch of radish. For some reason that dropped right here. And you see they're in, so they grow like, or edges is another way of saying it. So for some reason they tend to come up more in cracks. So this is like the, you know, the space between the wood chips and the wall. So that's them, they all volunteered there. Here are the borage growing between this wall and these wood chips. This one's going to flower soon. Actually, now that I'm here, you can see, this is how sometimes I water. This is how you can pour your fish gook onto your wood chip volunteers. So that is like fish waste, broken down fish waste. I'll talk about my fish method in another video, but if I don't have a really good system that's described in Jadam for filtering out the bones and the meat and stuff. So like my lazy way right now is just to put this in there, dump all the gook in there, and then hopefully it doesn't like clog up this guy. But in the past I have clogged it up. And make sure you wear really thick rubber gloves if you're gonna like be lazy, do it the lazy way like me. The smell kind of like stays on ya. Here's another edge right here, and see the borage are going crazy here too. This one, in fact, in my alkanet video I showed these guys, and you can see how much bigger they are from my alkanet video. And this would be like another crevice. I don't know if it counts as like growing in wood chips, but if you're concerned about them coming up reseeding in wood chips, you know, any place you have like a little crevice. See, here's like something's just dying to grow right in there. And in this one, see, look, this is like a trunk. This guy, this is a mutant brassica, but he looks very true to purple broccoli. And it was really hard to not eat the little broccolinis, but I resisted so that he could go to seed. And that is him going to seed to add more of those purple anthocyanin genetics to my soil seed bank. And this year I'm gonna go faster because I found my camera's gonna die. So this year I have a wild lettuce growing it out of the wall, and then more edge wild lettuce. And also this makes great chicken food especially when it gets this big. You can make a lot of chickens happy with this. Or actually, what I meant to say is make a lot of meals out of this. So this part of the video is going to have a little bit of a status on my elderberry cuttings in it, so I can make a point about my seed bank, my soil seed bank. So these are my 6 elderberry cuttings that I did a video on, and the week I was out of town in April was the one week that it decided to be super hot, uncharacteristically hot that time of year. And so these guys got dehydrated. All my potted plants got dehydrated, but these 2 didn't make it, as you can see. but one of the same variety made it, and I really only need one to live for me to take cuttings from him in the future. So I just got to make sure I'm extra nice to him. Like, I don't want, this is like the smallest stinky bob I've ever seen. Yeah. Anyway, so your weeds will come up in here. Like, they will, it's funny, it's like a microcosm of the kind of weeds that you have out. And I've been coming in here and just picking them off. Because I used, I should probably note that I used my soil, my backyard soil, to fill this up, which is also in the video. This guy got, I just watered him yesterday and they're so dry. That's how hot it's been. It's super dry. Anyway, but here, so here you can see broadleafed dock, you know, and you can actually eat that. I see forget-me-not in here. Here's a little baby thistle, grass, it's like another dock, more forget-me-nots. This is a wild lettuce. This is a shotweed, so this is also an edible plant, a cress. And this looks like an oxeye daisy, maybe. And there's other ones that I've taken out of here, all kinds of stuff, that other thistles that kind of match what I see out and, you know, out in my yard. And anyway, so this whole this whole digression is because you'll notice that as I'm talking about my elderberries, you see these very distinct other plants right next to it, and these actually look like true red Russian kills, don't they? Although this one looks like he's got a little purple broccoli in him, doesn't he? Who knows? But here, so I'm showing you this to show you that the brassicas I have, when you let them go to seed, they regrow it for you like weeds. And they're not weeds because you want to eat them. So that's why these two, even though my cuttings died, I'm still nurturing it for the brassicas. And one could think, well, maybe your elderberry died because this guy was competing for water. But this guy has a brassica and he's alive. But he's not as vigorous, as you can see, as the other ones. But this guy has a thicker stem. Yeah. So I would totally agree, though, that it didn't help that these guys were competing with my cuttings for water. So you got to think about that, or you can just not be a lazy or traveling person and just keep up with watering your pots better. And so that's it. And so this is a prime example of what you see. I also have some other pots of other plants, and I have plantains growing out of that, like almost every one. And I love plantains. So that's another example of a weed that I let go to seed, and I love seeing them show up in my pots. So I guess you could say this is technically like a fourth way you can get your plants to reseed for you, is you take a chunk of your soil, you just use your food forest soil, to when you're going to pot something, and then you will pick out the weeds that you don't like and keep the ones, I guess you can't, that's an oxymoron to say to keep your weeds, because they wouldn't be weeds if you wanted to keep them. Anyway, but you get the point. So I'm signing off right now. Thanks again for watching to the end. So if you have really good soil and it's not even great soil, but like mulched soil, and there's that helicopter again, and it is hovering right over me, and I'm like in my underwear. This is lovely. This is so funny. I don't even know if the camera can pick it up. I see you too. I can't see it through my phone. Okay, now he's moving on. He got his peep show, and he's moved on. Ah, lovely. It reminds me of a story that I'm not gonna bore you with. Actually, it's kind of funny. Anyway, and now the chickens are all excited, worked up. Okay, so, and you can tell that they're mutants.